I'm sitting on the cold, unforgiving tile floor of my bathroom. The air is thick with the smell of copper and cheap whiskey. In one hand, I've got my phone, its screen cracked and glowing with the harsh light of a Reddit thread. In the other, a half-empty bottle of Fireball. The cinnamon burn in my throat is the only thing telling me I'm still alive. Everything else inside me feels like it's been hollowed out with an ice cream scoop. I'm 26 years old. Until today, I thought I knew who I was. I was a father, a provider, a soon-to-be husband. I had a 4-year-old son who was the absolute sun in my sky. I had a woman I'd spent 6 years building a life with. And I had a brother who was my best friend. Within the span of a single afternoon, every single one of those identities was stripped away. I'm looking at the man in the mirror, and I don't recognize him. He looks like a fool, a placeholder. It all blew up at my son's 4th birthday party. It was supposed to be a perfect day. My mom had hosted it at her place, and the backyard was a chaos of laughter, the smell of charcoal smoke, and bright blue decorations. I was running around with the little guy, playing airplane, feeling that swell of pride you get when you see your kid happy. I wanted to capture it. I wanted to remember this day forever. I realize now how cruel that irony is. I went inside to grab my phone from the charger. The house was quiet compared to the noise outside. As I walked down the hall toward the guest room, I heard it. A giggle, high-pitched, playful, and unmistakable. It was the sound she made when she was being flirted with. I froze. She had told me 20 minutes ago that she had a migraine and needed to lie down in the dark. Being the devoted partner I was, I didn't think affair. I thought maybe she's feeling better. I went to the kitchen, cut a massive slice of the birthday cake, the one she'd spent all morning picking out, and walked back to the room to surprise her. I thought a little sugar might help her headache. As I stood outside the closed door, the playful "Stop, seriously, stop it," came through the wood. My heart did a strange double thump. I pushed the door open, ready to say surprise. The plate hit the floor. The ceramic shattered with a sound like a gunshot, and the cake smeared across the floor. She was on the bed. She wasn't alone. She was draped over a man, her shirt discarded on the rug, her makeup smeared across her face. And the man holding her, the man she was giggling with while our son opened presents outside, was my brother. My older brother. The man who had given me the big brother talk when she first got pregnant. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even breathe. I just stood there staring at them like an idiot. They scrambled, of course. She started babbling, trying to pull the sheets up, her voice a frantic, high-pitched whine. My brother just looked at me with this expression of mild annoyance, like I'd interrupted a movie. I didn't wait to hear the lies. I turned around, walked out the front door, and told my uncle I had a work emergency. I peeled out of that driveway so fast, I left rubber on the street. I spent the next few hours in this bathroom, drowning in Fireball and memories. And that's when the joke started playing on loop in my head. For 4 years, at every family gathering, someone would say it. "Man, he's the spitting image of his uncle." My mom would laugh, my aunts would nod, and my brother, he would laugh the loudest. He'd clap me on the shoulder and say, "Strong genes in this family, right?" I always dismissed it. I trusted her. I loved her. We had been together since we were barely 20. I had given her a promise ring when she gave birth, a temporary piece of jewelry because I was drowning in student debt and medical bills. I told her the moment I was debt-free, we'd have the wedding of her dreams. I've been introducing her as my wife for 3 years. Now the memories were shifting, like a kaleidoscope clicking into a new, ugly pattern. I remembered the nights out she'd have with him. They'd go shopping or running errands together once or twice a week. She'd come home beaming, her energy through the roof. But when I'd try to be intimate with her later that night, she'd turn away. "I'm exhausted," she'd say. "The kid took it out of me today." She had a high drive, but it was never for me. Not anymore. The phone in my pocket wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages from her. Messages from her friends, those trashy girls who always seemed to smirk when I was around. Messages from my brother. I didn't read them. I couldn't. I was spiraling into a hole where the only thing that mattered was the question I was too terrified to ask. A few days later, the shock turned into a cold, clinical rage. I called a meeting at my apartment. I told my parents, my brother, and her to be there. I sent my son to stay with a cousin. Dropping him off was agony. I looked at his nose, his eyes, the way he tilted his head when he was confused. I didn't see myself. I saw the man who had been sleeping with my wife in the guest room of my mother's house. They arrived looking like they were going to a funeral. My brother tried to be the alpha immediately. He started talking fast, saying it was a mistake, that she had been feeling lonely and neglected because I worked too much. He actually tried to blame me. I didn't argue. I didn't even look at him. I looked at her. "Is he mine?" The silence that followed was the loudest thing I've ever heard. My mother gasped. My father looked like he'd been struck by lightning. She didn't look up. She just whispered, "I don't know. I don't know." She admitted it had been going on since before she got pregnant. They had been careful, she said, but accidents happen. I felt the room tilt. I had spent 4 years of my life, thousands of dollars in medical bills, an emergency C-section I'm still paying off, a car she convinced me to finance, all for a child that might be my nephew. It ended in violence. I don't remember who swung first, but I remember the feeling of my brother's blood on my knuckles and the sound of my mother screaming for us to stop. I kicked them all out. I told her to pack a bag and never come back. In the weeks that followed, the betrayal grew branches. My mother, a woman who prides herself on her Christian values, started calling me every single day, but she wasn't calling to ask how I was sleeping or if I'd eaten. She was calling to protect the family's reputation at the church. "You have to forgive them," she told me. "Blood is blood. That little boy needs his father." "He isn't my son, Mom," I'd say, my voice cracking. "It doesn't matter. You raised him. If you walk away now, you're the one committing the sin. Think of how this looks. People are starting to talk." That was her priority. The look of it. My father was even worse. He just went silent. He wouldn't look me in the eye, but he wouldn't condemn my brother either. It was like they were all waiting for me to just get over it so they could go back to their Sunday roasts and pretend the foundation of our family wasn't rotten to the core. I was drowning in debt. Between the hospital bills I'd taken on for our son and the new car she'd insisted on, I had nothing left. I couldn't afford a lawyer. I couldn't afford therapy. I was just an average guy making an average wage, watching my savings vanish into a black hole of betrayal. The DNA kit arrived in a plain white envelope. I held it in my hands for an hour before I could even open the box. I felt like I was holding a detonator. If I used it, there was no going back. I took the swabs. I sent them off. And then I waited. The day the email arrived, I was at work. I saw the notification on my phone and my heart nearly stopped. I walked out to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared at the screen for 20 minutes before I had the courage to click. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. The world stopped spinning. I felt a strange, cold peace wash over me. It was finally over. The doubt, the maybe, the tiny sliver of hope I'd been clinging to, it was all gone. I wasn't a father. I had been a cuckolded provider for my brother's secret family. When I got home, she was waiting on my porch. She looked terrible. Red-eyed, messy hair, wearing the same hoodie she'd worn for 3 days. She saw the look on my face and started wailing. She dropped to her knees, clutching at my legs, begging me to think of the bond we had. The bond was built on a lie, I told her. I've never felt so cold in my life. I felt like a machine. I told her I was filing for whatever legal separation I could, and that I never wanted to see her or the child again. That's the part people judge. How could you walk away from a 4-year-old? They ask. But here's the truth. When I looked at that little boy, I didn't see the kid I'd taught to play catch. I saw my brother's face. I saw the 6 years of gaslighting. I saw the nights out and the migraines. Every time he laughed, I heard my brother's laugh. I started having thoughts, dark, terrifying thoughts of resentment. I realized that for his safety and my own, I had to go. I checked myself into a mental health clinic for 72 hours because the anger was becoming something I couldn't control. It's been 9 months now. My life is incredibly quiet. I cut off my mother and father. They couldn't stop pushing for reconciliation. They couldn't stop inviting my brother to dinner when I was there. So I walked away from all of them. I don't have a family anymore, but I don't have a pack of wolves pretending to be sheep either. My brother, he's the biggest coward of them all. Once the truth was out, he didn't step up. He didn't become a father. He told everyone it was her fault for not being careful, and he basically disappeared. He's back to his old life, pretending the kid doesn't exist. She's couch surfing. She lost the apartment. She lost the stability, and she lost the man who would have done anything for her. Sometimes I hear she's struggling, and for a second I feel a pang of something. But it's not pity. It's just a memory of a person who never really existed. I'm still at the same job. I got a small promotion, which helps with the debt. I spend my nights at the gym or just sitting in my quiet apartment. The silence is loud, but it's honest. I still think about the kid. I hope he finds a life that isn't defined by the trash people who brought him into the world, but I can't be the one to give it to him. I'm 27, and I'm rebuilding myself from the ashes. It's not a glamorous life. It's not a blooming success story. It's just survival. But for the first time in 6 years, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a fool. I see a man who finally knows the truth. And in this world, that's about as much as you can hope for.